7. Corporate ethics, good governance. Good governance means whatsoever company would be, whatsoever organization would be, their ultimate aim would be to be a good organization, and ultimately their aim, vision, or mission would be to become a great organization. Even you may read a book, Good to Great, for companies. Now, over here, what is good governance? Or even so many times you might have heard the word good governance uh, in the speeches of Narendra Modi. So, your functions, processes would be good or better in perspective of management or business ethics. What is corporate good governance? Corporate good governance is typically perceived by academic literature as dealing with problems that results from the separation of ownership and control. Means if ownership is not there or control is not there, then there would be problems. Ownership means whatsoever tasks, whatsoever assignments, whatsoever things you are doing, that is you yourself you are doing, you are taking ownership for the results, whatever outcome would be. It may be positive outcome or it would be some negative outcome, but you take ownership of the things. You wish to control the things, monitor the things, coordinate the things, direct the things. Means if control measures are not there, if ownership is not there, then there would be some sort of problems. So if control and ownership is there, then there would be corporate governance or corporate processes controlled. Desiderata of corporate governance means what are importance in corporate governance. First is rights of shareholders. In which type of company there would be shareholder? Can anyone tell me? What are different type of structures?
Sir, preference holders, sir, equity shareholders with debentures.
What are different business structures?
Structure and semi-structure.
You might have learned about business structures like proprietorship, partnership, joint stock company,
Yes,
cooperative
sir.
society. So for joint stock company, public sector organization or private sector organization, whenever they would be listed, there would be a list of shareholders who might have invested in your company. So ultimately, rights of shareholders. So whatsoever things you'd be doing, you are directly going to influence your shareholders. If you'd be doing some sort of unethical activities, discrepancies, or whatsoever things would go opposite or counter to government laws and regulations, then there may be some sort of problems like your company may get shut down due to government law. Then you have exploited rights of shareholders. So whatsoever shareholders would be, they might have kept some faith in your company, in you, then you will have to prove yourself according to their faith only. So that is rights of shareholders. Equitable treatment of shareholders means shareholder would be different types like some of the shareholders they might have invested in your company with some huge amount, and some of the shareholders would be retail ticket only. So equitable treatment means each and every shareholder should be considered as same according to law of the land. Role of stakeholders in corporate governance. As we have already discussed about stakeholders, whenever stakeholder, what would be there in your mind or in any of the text, you should understand each and everyone is considered or included in stakeholders like shareholders, company employees, suppliers, buyers, and ultimately even society is included in stakeholders. So role of stakeholders. So each and everyone is there who is going to influence your company, and each and everyone would get influence due to whatever results would be there from your company. Disclosure and transparency. Transparency means there should not be any hidden facts about your company. You may produce alcohol in Gujarat, though Gujarat is a dry state, but whatever alcohol, methanol or ethanol you are producing, it's for industrial purpose only. It's for pharma company only. Then you are doing ethical activities. But if you are producing ethanol and you are going to market it as a wine, then there would be problem. And if you haven't informed such type of things to your shareholders or rest of the stakeholders, then it is breach of the conditions or rules regulation. So transparency or disclosure means disclosing, giving information about whatsoever things you are doing, your trading, your manufacturing activities, and you are being transparent. Responsibilities of the board. Board is a structure. I would like to recall, I would like to remind you a scene of Aitra's movie, if you might have watched, when Priyanka Chopra would promote one of the board of the directors, and Akshay Kumar was just thinking about he would be becoming CEO of the company, but he became board of the director due to recommendation of Priyanka Chopra due to she was having some earlier historical reference. So board of directors means the part of the company would be making some policies, strategies for future or for present. Such type of board of directors, they would be having annual general meetings, and in annual general meetings, they would be taking decisions about future course of action, and ultimately, they are ultimate authority for any of the listed private limited company or public limited enterprise. Four priorities that developing countries should concentrate while practicing corporate governance. So, there is a question like why we are going to discuss about developing countries only. Developing countries and business ethics. Why these two perspectives are there? Can anyone answer? Can anyone answer?
नहीं पता सर.
Is India a developed country or developing country or underdeveloped country?
Developing country.
Developing.
India is
Developing country.
India is developing country. Developing country means there would be anyone else is pending to join now. Okay, I hope no one is pending now. India is a developing country means developed countries are some of the examples of developed countries like in Europe, whatsoever, UK or France or Germany, Holland or US type of countries. In developing countries, you can take example like Brazil or India or Indonesia, Malaysia type of countries who are having a major role in world GDP. They are producing like anything, but they haven't developed with the standards whatever developed countries are enjoying presently. So, developing country is just a stage like towards becoming a developed country. And even underdeveloped country like you can take example of some of the African countries like Uganda or Nigeria, uh, whatever lifestyle basic things would be there, they are not enjoying such type of fruit, so they are underdeveloped country. So India is a developing country. Now, four priorities that developing countries should concentrate while practicing corporate governance. While practicing corporate governance, what things you should keep in your mind? First is good and effective communication. Good and effective communication means whatsoever communication would be from top management to the middle management to the lower management, or public press meetings would be there, or whatsoever information should be given to shareholders. If communication is better, then there would be no problem. Most of the problems arise due to there would be communication gap, or there would be noise, and there would be some sort of baffles or hassles, and due to it communication whatsoever information should be given to shareholders or to the employees or to the frontline managers. If such type of baffles would be there, then problem would arise. So, if you wish to remove problems, first and priormost task is remove any sort of barriers. So, effective communication. Second is ensure individual players maximum autonomy. Autonomy means whatever employees will be there, production manager or marketing manager or finance head or HR head, they should be given a free hand to take their own decision. Otherwise, what would happen? They would just wait for board of directors or CEO or national head. They would be giving permission to go ahead, and till then there would be near about a week or a month or whatsoever time, and due to it whatsoever processes or functions should be started as early as possible, they would take too much time. So ensure individual players maximum autonomy. Here, giving autonomy doesn't mean you would be giving autonomy to shareholders, but you would be giving autonomy to directors or to the company employees. Here, even suppliers or buyers, you cannot consider to be given autonomy. If there is a hierarchical set up to regulate private sector activities with a view to promote public interest, new countervailing powers should be set up to fill the role. It means there would be preventive actions and public interest should be followed. The role of state and how government officials are appointed to carry out the role should be clearly defined in the interest of sustainable development. In Indian economic policy or budgets, last 10 years, if you might have monitored the word sustainable development, you'll find each and everywhere. Development word was there before 90s or before 80s, each and everywhere in economic policy, development word would be there. But now a new buzzword is sustainable development. Sustainable development means the development would sustain, would exist for years, for decades, for centuries. Means you develop like anything, you got growth for the company, for the country, for the economy, but it would not sustain. It would sustain for just a year or 6 months, then it would be just trend or fashion only. If you wish to go for sustainable development, you'll have to work hard. You'll have to think about all the processes, all the functions. There should be some sort of total quality management. If development would be there for 10 years or more, then it would be sustainable development. So government officials should be appointed, like individual auditors who would be auditing companies, whether it would be private company or public company, but government auditors would be taking care for such type of things. If you would be taking examples of whatsoever scams we have heard in last decade, like Subrato Roy, Sahara, Nirav Modi, or Lalit Modi, or Vijay Mallya, if government officials or auditors they might have performed their duty well, then such type of problems might not have been faced by the company or by the shareholders or ultimately by the nation. We have lost so much money due to such type of scams, and that is happened due to government officials. They haven't taken any sort of measures, any sort of action, what they should have, they must have taken. Functions of the board of a listed company has a some select, decide the remuneration and evaluate on a regular basis, and if necessary change the CEO. What's a board of directors would be, think about their remuneration, think about their duties, and evaluate the remuneration and duties, and accordingly if you wish change the CEO, because ultimately whatsoever things are happening, whatsoever things are occurring in the company, whatsoever duties have been assigned to any of the manager, any of the heads of the departments, the accountability would be of CEO. Whatsoever results would be, the accountability would be of CEO. So first and foremost task would be to think about CEO, oversee the conduct of company's business to evaluate whether or not it is being correctly managed. Continuously, quarterly or half yearly or yearly, there should be some sort of monitoring meeting about company's functions, review and where necessary approve company's financial objectives and major corporate plans and objectives. Whatever major policies would be where major financial decisions are involved, like if 100 crores company is there, then more than 10 crores of rupees, such type of decision would be there, then such type of decision would be approved by board of directors only. If 1 to 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 25 lakhs, such type of decision would be there, then whatever head of the department they would be taking decision. Provide advice and counsel to top management. So continuous counseling, continuous communication should be there. Here, top management means VPs or AVPs or CEOs of the company. Board of directors, they would be giving advice, they would be counseling the top management, like to achieve such type of strategy, to achieve the goals, missions, or visions of the company, what should be done. Select and recommend candidates to shareholders for electing them to the board of directors. If at all ethical list of the uh, candidates would be there, then ultimately ethical board of directors would be elected. Review the adequacy of systems to comply with all applicable laws and regulations. Here, as such, we are discussing about business ethics and corporate governance. Each and everywhere you'd find about laws and regulations. And ultimately, the ecosystem, what follows laws and regulations. Review any other function required by law to be performed. Some more processes or laws would be there. Accordingly, personalized laws or regulations should be there for different companies. Major thrust of corporate governance. What are major thrust? Call upon government to put in place an effective institutional and legal framework. If legal framework would be there and it would be government body, then each and everything would be measured. As you might have watched Scam 1992 of Harshad Mehta, you might have seen ultimately Harshad Mehta, he has exploited the loopholes of government security companies and government banks and even private banks. So if regulatory bodies like TRI or RBI or IRDA, such type of regulator or SEBI, such type of regulatory bodies, they would be doing their um, functions or their duties with utmost ethical standards, then no any other rules or regulations are required. Call for a corporate governance framework that protect and facilitate the exercise of shareholders' rights. Whatsoever 100 crore, 1000 crore, 10,000 crore company would be there like Facebook or Netflix, but major money is involved of the shareholders. So you will have to think about the rights of the shareholders. If rights of the shareholders are saved, then the company is saved. Otherwise, whatsoever height of the company would be, whatsoever height of the company may sink like anything. Strongly support equitable treatment of all shareholders. Recognize the importance of the role of stakeholders in corporate governance, but nature stress the importance of timely, accurate, and transparent disclosure mechanism. Whatever growth of the company would be, whatever future plans would be, whatever problems of the company would be, each and everything should be disclosed in annual general meeting. It should be disclosed to shareholders with the magazines or fund performance journals of the companies. Proper dealing with board structures, responsibilities, and procedures. Strategies and techniques basic to sound corporate governance. So, what strategies, policies, tactics, and techniques should be there for corporate governance and from basics to sound? Corporations should cultivate values, develop codes of conduct, ethical behavior, and other standards of appropriate practices. As there is saying in Sanskrit, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. If board of directors, if top management, they would be performing, they would be executing ethical standards, they would be following codes of conduct, they would be having their own values, morals. Like we can give example of Tata's, then their employees would be ethical. There you will not need to teach ethics to your employees if top management is following ethical standards. A proper corporate strategy has to be built and against which success can be measured. If you are not planning to succeed, then you are planning for failure. So ultimately, a proper, robust strategy should be there for your future plan, for your present situation. Then and then only you can think about success. Here it is told like measuring success. But I would like to state like if you want robust corporate strategy, then you should not even think about success. Well-defined responsibilities and assignments of decision-making authorities, also specifying the hierarchy of required approvals from the level of employees to the board of directors. Different levels like lower level, middle level, and higher level. Higher level means top management, and top management to board of directors. For each and every one, there should be some sort of responsibilities, some sort of assignments, means authority and responsibility. If you haven't defined authorities and responsibilities for board of directors, for top management, or whatsoever level, then who would be doing what? There would not be any line, there would not be any level, there would not be any definition, then ultimately no one would be accountable. And without accountability, no result would be there. Whatsoever success would be, whatsoever failure would be, there should be some sort of accountable person. Strategies and techniques, again basic to sound corporate governance, setting up a system to ensure interaction and proper communication. As we have discussed uh, earlier, communication and sound communication, communication levels should be there. There should not be any sort of noise, baffles, or hassles for communication. Whatsoever information had been given, and there should be some sort of urgency and importance for communication. Whatsoever information had been given to top level to middle level to lower level, or lower level to middle to top level to board of directors, there should be action on whatsoever communication. Establishing strong internal control system. Earlier we had discussed about government officials would be there, government auditors would be there, and they would be auditing financial accounts. They would be auditing about ethical audit or environmental audit of the company or company functions. But if you would be having your own internal control system, your internal control system about your accounts, about environmental standards, about carbon credit, about your manufacturing, about your total quality process or management, about your ethical standards, about your HR audit, even it's a buzzword presently. If such type of things are there, then no need for external audit. Yeah, external audit would be formality that should be performed by government officials. But yeah, only thumbs up would be there from government officials if internal audit is doing well. Ensuring system monitoring of risk exposures. So risk again can be of different types, like financial risk, or like whatever risk exposed to your employees or workers, or even in insurance risk is there, or even in investment risk is there, or even if you are going to start some new venture, then risk is there. If even if you are going to any of other country, then risk would be there, like risk country analysis would be there. So monitoring risk is required. If risk appetite would be well, then and then only company is going to grow. Then too, you should not measure water with both of the feet. That is quote of Warren Buffett. So ultimately, risk should be measured. Calculative risk should be there. It should be monitored. Then and then only company would grow, and again company would sustain. Instituting a scheme of financial and managerial incentives. Whatsoever incentives would be there. If some sort of schemes would be there, some sort of standards would be there, then and then only there would be accountability, there would be duties performed well. Each and every employees, they would like to achieve their goal. Ensuring required information flows internally and to the public at large. internal flows, it would be communication, intranet would be there, and through intranet or through the letters or emails, information would be given to different authorities and to public. There would be general information like public press meeting or such type of things would be there, and you should give each and every information to the company employees or to the public. Whatsoever information is required to be exposed, some sort of secret information or secrecy would be there that can be understood. Benefits to the society. Ultimately, we are discussing about business ethics, and whenever we would be discussing about business ethics, there would be one and topmost perspective would be of society. Whatsoever company you'd be running, whatsoever profits you'd be earning, ultimately you are earning profits from the society. So you'll have to think about the society. In developing countries where stocks of most firms are not actively traded on stock exchanges, adopting standards for transparency in dealing with investors and creditors is a major benefit to all stakeholders. Means if transparency would be there, then there would be rights of creditors and investors would be saved. Research had proved that in countries where corporate governance is in place, then the rights of stakeholders is protected. So if you wish to protect rights of shareholders, then proper corporate governance should be there in the companies. Strong corporate governance strengthens the market system for any of the business. In India, you might have observed some sort of industries they would be having some unorganized structure, and in some sort of industries there would be organized structures. Like even IT sector or insurance sector, banking sector, they are at some sort of middle level. If you'd be comparing with Europe or USA or rest of the sectors like real estate or agriculture, they are at just nascent level, and they are just at primary level. They are not you cannot define them as organized sector. So if sector is not organized, then but natural the companies would not be having proper corporate governance. It is effective instrument for combating corruption. Means each and every process would be written, each and every process would be according to legal law of the land, then no corruption would be there. But if unorganized sector would be there, no any corporate governance would be there, then ultimately we are going to encourage corruption. Better corporate governance can improve the management of the firm. It also brings in improvement in the management and the way the system works. So if a better corporate governance would be there, it would create some sort of rosy picture, some sort of goodish picture for all the stakeholders, whether it would be employees or the company or suppliers or buyers or the society or the government. So ultimately, if government would be formulating such sort of rules and all the companies would be following such sort of rules, then there would not be problem for any of the stakeholder like shareholder or employees or supplier buyer. Recommendations by the task force. So here task force means whatsoever strategies they might have defined about business ethics and corporate governance, like globally what companies should follow, what rules and regulations should be there, and how they should follow the conditions or rules, regulations, or levies or duties or rights of shareholders. They might have defined, they might have thought about the things. Then first is greater role and influence for non-executive independent directors. Most of the times it happens like whatever directors of the board, they would like to hinder loss of the company, or they would like to create baffles in communication whenever loss of the company is there, or company might have done some sort of things what we cannot define as ethical thing, like. So if non-executive or independent directors or auditors, they would be there and they would be doing their duty with utmost care or utmost ethical standards, then they would be escalating, they would be extracting some sort of problems in the company, and they would such type of problems would come to the eyes of the directors. Stringent punishment for executives, directors for failing to comply with listing and other requirements. Yeah, whatsoever human being, he may commit some sort of mistakes, but if with full will a person would be creating some sort of mistake, or willful defaulter would be there for the rules and regulation, then punishment should be there. Limitations on the nature and number of directorship of managing and whole-time dealers. Proper disclosure to the shareholders and investing community. Proper disclosure to shareholder and investing community. Investing community may be venture capitalists or the directors who might have invested huge money. If each and every information, future projections would be given to them, then whatever facts would be none to them. Tougher listing and compliance regimen through a centralized national listing authority. Here again, it's said about government bodies who would be regulating the things. Highest and toughest standards for corporate governance for listed companies. India has started some sort of standards for corporate governance, and within just 1 or 2 decades, we would be able to see the results. A code of public behavior for public sector units. Why India falls behind in corporate governance? As we have discussed, there are some sort of problems due to what India has failed in corporate governance. First is India still has poor bankruptcy laws and procedures. In US or Europe, most of the companies, if they would not perform well for years and they would come to know about their future projections, like they would not be able to achieve their future projections, or even they would not be able to fulfill creditors' views, investors' views, or shareholders' rights, then ultimately they would like to go for bankruptcy. But in India, there are so many baffles and hassles in bankruptcy laws. Indian accounting standards still do not mandate consolidation. Indian stock market are still inefficient in run. The Indian bond market is in its infancy. Infancy means again it's at nascent stage. Money market or different stocks or capital market or uh, short-term bonds or long-term bonds. Yeah, most of the youngsters or even so many shareholders or investors, they have started creating some sort of pool, but then to information uh, at level is required, that level all the investors or shareholders, they do not have impetus of the growth of corporate governance in India. So now, how corporate governance would grow? Such type of things are there. First is competition. Competition will force companies to drastically restructure their ways of doing business. Now, if your competitor would start marketing about their corporate governance like we are the perfect one, we are good governance company, or we are a corporate socially responsible company, or we are protecting shareholders rights, then ultimately you will have to follow their footsteps. Second, new players professionalism. Companies should have professional boards and disclosure standards that measure up the best in the world. Growth in market capitalization. There is a phenomenal growth in market capitalization which triggered the growth of larger slices of smaller pie. Like its vision of Narendra Modi as India would become 3 trillion company, and even the eye would be on 10 trillion company. So if economy would grow, then there would be duty or there would be must type of things for companies to follow ethical standards or being being responsible for the society, and they will have to follow all the rules and regulations of corporate governance. Foreign investors had steadily raised their demands for better corporate governance, more transparency, and greater disclosure. FIIs and FDIs or foreign investors are there, they would be having some sort of standards in their minds about the companies, and they would be uh, giving pressure to the companies to follow all the rules and regulations according to the standards. Impetus for the growth of corporate governance in India, again, media influences. In the last 5 years, the press and financial analysts have induced a level of disclosure that was inconceivable a decade ago. A decade ago, or a few decades ago, like before 90s or in 1992, there was no disclosure or press was not having information about such type of things. Now, whatever IPOs would be there, whatever company's performance would be there, each and every person of public they would be having information about the things due to growth in press or social media, or information would become viral like anything. Influence of banks and financial institutions. Due to financial institutions debts, Indian banks are getting converted to equity, and this will get intensified over a period of time, especially with advent of universal banking. In Germany or in Japan, banks would be giving loans to the companies, but ultimately they would be monitoring the processes or the results of the companies. But in India, such type of things are not there. But yeah, it is expected. Like whenever banks would start giving so much great credits or loans, then they would start monitoring the results and processes or future plans or projections of the company. Realization of the benefits of corporate governance. It makes good business sense to be transparent, well-governed company and incorporating internally accepted accounting standards.